Mom screamed. Your kid stole the missing $10,000 from the safe. Her words cut through the room like a knife. Everyone stopped moving. The birthday cake on the table suddenly looked wrong. My stomach felt sick. Sarah pointed her finger at us. We saw him touching it, she said. Her voice was mean and cold. Tommy stood there shaking. His new birthday shirt wrinkled from playing outside. His eyes filled with tears. I didn't yell back. Didn't explain anything. I just reached into my purse, pulled out a tiny black memory card, placed it on the birthday tablecloth and whispered, "Let's watch what really happened." Before we continue, kindly subscribe and drop your name in the comments. We'll be giving shout-outs in our next video. The day before Mom's accusation, everything seemed fine on the surface. At least that's what I wanted to believe. Grandma's apartment smelled like cinnamon rolls and fresh flowers. The kind of smell that makes you think happy families live there. Grandma was arranging roses in a blue vase. Grandpa read his newspaper by the window. Sarah sat on the expensive couch, playing games on her tablet and ignoring everyone. Rick, her husband, lounged nearby with that smug look he always wore, like he knew secrets nobody else did. Tommy was on the balcony feeding birds with crackers. He's only 11, very gentle, the type of boy who asks permission before taking an extra cookie. After my husband left us, Tommy and I moved into a tiny apartment near the bus stop. Money became tight, really tight. I started doing people's taxes from home, barely making enough to buy groceries. Grandma and Grandpa started slipping me money for Tommy's school supplies. His winter coat, sometimes rent. I never begged for it, but I always took it because we needed it badly. That help came with a price though. The kind Sarah loved to remind me about whenever she got the chance. The first time cash went missing, $20 vanished from Grandma's kitchen counter. She laughed it off, blamed her forgetful brain, but her eyes kept darting around the room suspiciously. The second time, $200 disappeared from Grandpa's coat pocket hanging in the closet. He said nothing out loud, just started locking his bedroom door at night. By the third time, $400 vanished from Sarah's designer purse she'd left in the guest bathroom. She announced it during Sunday lunch. "Someone went through my bag upstairs while I was changing," she said loudly. Her eyes locked onto me first, then slowly moved toward the window where Tommy's sneakers sat drying in the sun. She never said Tommy's name, but everyone heard it anyway. After that incident, Grandpa bought a safe. A big metal one with buttons and a lock. He bolted it to the wall inside his closet behind his winter sweaters. A secret code only he, Grandma, Sarah, and Rick knew. He told me while we drank hot chocolate one afternoon, "I just want our family to feel safe again." I nodded slowly. But safety doesn't come from metal boxes and secret numbers. Cash kept disappearing anyway. First small amounts, then larger ones. 1,000 gone on a Tuesday. 10,000 missing by Friday. No broken windows, no strangers, just heavy silence and suspicious stares. Grandma started clutching her purse tight whenever Tommy walked past her chair. Sarah began whispering to Rick during family dinners. Grandpa kept a notebook tracking every dollar that went missing. I stayed quiet and watched our family fall apart slowly. When Grandma laughed, it sounded fake. When Sarah smiled, it looked like a challenge. And Rick, he started acting strange around Grandpa's bedroom. I noticed it one afternoon. The way his eyes followed that closed door, the way he stood outside it just a moment too long. I told Grandpa what I saw. He didn't look surprised. "Then it's time we find out the truth," he said firmly. That same afternoon, Grandpa and I set up a tiny hidden camera inside an old jewelry box pointed right at the closet door. Nobody knew about it except us two. He squeezed my shoulder before leaving for his doctor's appointment. "If it's who I'm thinking," he said quietly, "I'll need real proof, not just feelings." I didn't know how quickly that proof would arrive, right before my whole family blamed my innocent son. After Grandpa installed that secret camera, I hoped things would calm down. They got worse instead. The worry just learned to hide better. At family dinners, conversations stopped halfway through sentences. Grandma pushed food around her plate without eating. Sarah kept refreshing her phone like she was waiting for important news. Rick just sat there drinking juice, nervous and fidgety, always glancing toward the bedroom hallway. A week passed, then $3,000 disappeared. Another week, $10,000 vanished. No signs of breaking in. Nothing except fear and blame hanging in the air like a storm cloud. Grandma called everyone over for a family talk. The words family talk never sounded so scary. We gathered in the living room. The lights felt too bright. The quiet felt too heavy. She started gentle, the way she always does before saying something hurtful. "Somebody's been stealing money from the safe again," she began. Then her eyes found Tommy sitting on the floor. "You were in the bedroom yesterday, weren't you, sweetheart?" Tommy looked confused. "I was just getting Grandpa's reading glasses like he asked." Sarah interrupted before I could defend him. "We saw him near that closet," she said. Her tone was confident, like a teacher who caught a student cheating. The whole room spun around me. For a second I couldn't think straight. My heart pounded in my ears. Tommy looked up at me, waiting for me to protect him. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Every single person in that room already decided he was guilty. Rick leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms and said nothing. That silence from him told everyone they were right to blame Tommy. Tommy's hands started shaking. His voice cracked when he said, "I didn't steal anything, I promise." Something inside my chest shattered. Not loudly, quietly, like ice cracking under weight. The kind of break that changes who you are. I wanted to shout, to throw their accusations back at them hard. Instead, I looked at my son and said calmly, "Go get your backpack. Wait for me outside by the car." He left without arguing, without making a sound. When the door clicked shut behind him, the air felt colder somehow. Grandma sighed like she'd been holding her breath for months. "I'm so sorry, honey, but it keeps happening. What else should we think?" I smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Maybe you're blaming the wrong person." Sarah rolled her eyes. "You always defend him no matter what." Rick finally spoke up. "If you know something, just say it." "Oh, I will," I replied. "Very soon." Nobody realized Grandpa had been standing in the hallway listening the whole time. Later that night, he knocked on my apartment door and handed me the memory card. "The video is ready," he said. "Everything's recorded." I stared at that tiny card like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Proof. The thing everyone said they wanted, but nobody was ready to see. The next morning, Grandma called my phone. Her voice sounded colder than before. "Your kid stole that missing $10,000. That was the moment I stopped explaining and started showing the truth. That Sunday felt wrong from the very beginning. The air was too still, like the world was holding its breath waiting for something bad. I brought Tommy over for dinner because Grandpa insisted. "Let's fix this family," he'd said over the phone. But fixing things isn't what our family knows how to do. We sat in the living room. Cooking show played on TV, but nobody watched it. A baby monitor blinked green on the coffee table near Grandma's teacup. Grandpa was in his bedroom checking the safe again, muttering to himself. Sarah scrolled through her phone. Rick stared at the wall like a statue. Tommy sat beside me, kicking his legs back and forth, trying to stay calm. Then Grandma said it again. "Your kid took the missing $10,000 from the safe." The words hit like someone threw a rock through a window. I didn't look at her right away. I just watched Tommy's face turn completely white. Sarah added coldly, "We saw him near it. That's all the proof we need." That's how you know someone practiced their lie beforehand. When they say it smoothly like lines from a movie script. Rick didn't say one word. He kept staring at that TV like ignoring us would make the truth disappear. I didn't argue or beg. My hands moved before my brain did. I reached into my bag, pulled out that tiny memory card Grandpa gave me, and placed it right in the middle of the coffee table. The soft click it made hitting the wood was louder than anyone's voice. Grandma frowned hard. "What's that supposed to be?" "Security footage," I said. My voice came out steady, maybe too steady. You all wanted proof. Here it is. Nobody moved an inch. Let's watch it together, I told them. Grandpa appeared in the doorway, reading the room before I even explained anything. He picked up the card, walked into his bedroom, and closed the door quietly. 5 minutes. That's how long we waited. Sarah stood up halfway like she wanted to leave, then sat back down. Grandma twisted her hands together nervously. Rick stopped breathing. Tommy pressed against my side, small and quiet. When Grandpa came back out, he didn't look at anybody. He just said, "You all need to see this right now." We followed him into his bedroom. The room smelled like old books and laundry soap. His computer screen glowed blue. The video file name said October 19th, 2:14 a.m. The video started playing. Grainy, quiet, a timestamp blinking in the corner. The bedroom door opened slowly. Person walked in. Sarah gasped first. That's Rick. He moved like he'd done this before. Walked straight to the closet, pushed aside the winter sweaters, entered the code on the safe, opened it wide, and stuffed $100 bills into a black gym bag. Calm, quick, like he'd practiced. The camera caught everything. His face, his tattoo, even his watch. Grandpa paused the video on Rick's face. You could see everything clearly. Nobody spoke. Rick's skin turned pale like paper. He stood up, turned around, and walked straight out the front door without saying one single word. No apology, no excuse, no goodbye. And that's how silence can end a fight louder than any shouting match. Rick didn't come back that night. He left without his wallet, without his phone charger, without defending himself even once. The front door slammed shut, and that sound seemed to stay in the air forever. Grandma sat down on the couch and covered her face, whispering something about needing to check on the baby upstairs. Sarah didn't move at all. She just stood frozen in front of that paused video like maybe it would change if she stared long enough. Grandpa stayed in his bedroom, one hand still on the computer mouse, completely still. Tommy tugged my sleeve. "Mom, was that really Uncle Rick?" His voice was so tiny it made my heart hurt. "Yes, baby," I whispered back. It was him. That night nobody in the house slept. The apartment felt empty and cold. You could hear the fridge humming, the heater clicking on, every creak of the floor. Like even the walls felt ashamed. The next morning, Rick's truck was gone from the driveway. Sarah's face looked tired and hollow. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying all night or not sleeping, maybe both. She didn't look at me when I handed her a cup of tea. She just muttered, "You didn't have to set a trap like that." I almost laughed out loud. Set a trap? You think I made him steal? She flinched like my words physically hurt her. "I didn't know," she said weakly. "I thought it might be Tommy because that was easier to believe." I interrupted her. "Easier than believing the man you married could lie to all of us." She had no answer. When Grandpa came downstairs later that morning, he was carrying printed pictures, screenshots from the video. Rick's face, the money in his hands, the safe wide open. He laid them out on the kitchen table like evidence in a courtroom. "No police," he announced. "Not yet. But he's finished here. No more money. No more coming around." Grandma whispered, "But he's family." Grandpa looked at her like she'd spoken a foreign language. "So is Tommy." But nobody cared about that. Silence filled the room. By lunchtime, Sarah's bank card stopped working. When she checked her bank account on her phone, it was completely empty. Rick had drained it before he disappeared. Checking, savings, everything gone. She collapsed onto the kitchen floor with her phone in her hands, repeating his name over and over like a prayer. I didn't touch her. There was nothing helpful to say. That evening, she knocked on my bedroom door, eyes swollen, voice flat and empty. "Show me all of it. Every video." I opened the laptop, played every single file without talking. One after another. Theft each night. Same bag, same calm movements, same betrayal. She watched every second. Halfway through, her hand covered her mouth. Her shoulders shook. When it ended, she just said, "He did this more than once." 4 times, I told her. That we know of. She stood up and walked out without another word. Grandpa started changing the locks that same evening. New deadbolts, new codes for everything, even cameras installed outside on the porch. He called his lawyer the next morning. By dinner time, Rick's name was removed from every bank account, every legal paper, every insurance document. Erased completely. 2 days later, an envelope arrived in our mailbox. No return address, just our family name written in messy handwriting across the front. Inside was a short note written by Rick. "I'm sorry. I tried my best." No real apology, no explanation why. Just a motel receipt from Las Vegas. Sarah read it once, folded it neatly and said, "He's really gone." For weeks, the house felt like an empty shell. Grandma refused to talk about the video, acting like it never happened. Grandpa worked late every night, always on phone calls. Tommy barely said anything. I caught him sometimes just standing in the hallway, staring at Grandpa's closed bedroom door. One night, Grandpa sat at the kitchen table with a glass of water and said quietly, "When the money first started disappearing, I suspected him. I never said it out loud to anyone, but deep down I knew." I didn't reply. The truth was already living in the silence between us. Sarah moved back into her old childhood bedroom with the baby. She barely ate anything, barely spoke to anyone. I thought maybe sadness had completely swallowed her whole. Then one afternoon she came up to me and said, "I want to watch that footage again." Asked her why. "Because I need to hate him properly this time," she answered. We watched it again together. She didn't cry at all. When it ended, she said simply, "He used every single one of us." A few days later, she went downtown to a lawyer's office and filed for divorce. Life didn't snap back to normal. Just became something different. Tommy started talking to a counselor every week. Grandma baked cookies constantly. Grandpa fixed everything he could find. Doors, squeaky cabinets, leaky faucets. Like fixing objects around the house might fix us too. Then just when the quiet started feeling normal again, a car pulled into the driveway late one night. Headlights flashed across the living room curtains. Grandpa opened the front door first. Rick stood there under the porch light looking thin and sick. His eyes looked empty. He didn't try to come inside. He just reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a wrinkled envelope, dropped it on the welcome mat, turned around and walked away without speaking. Inside the envelope were lottery tickets, pawn shop receipts, crumpled fast food napkins, and one piece of paper that made us all freeze. A pawn ticket for Sarah's grandmother's necklace. The one she'd hidden in her jewelry box after Rick left. He'd come back into the house somehow. Into the bedroom, into her private things. Somewhere, somehow, he'd slipped inside again without anyone knowing. Sarah's knees buckled. That night, Grandpa had every single lock replaced before the sun came up. When the locksmith finally left, the house was silent except for the ticking clock and the baby's soft breathing through the monitor. Grandma whispered, "I never want to hear his name again." Nobody disagreed with her. 2 months later, the phone call came from Las Vegas. Rick had died alone in a cheap motel room. No identification, no wallet, no excuses left to give. We buried him quietly in the rain. No speeches, no fancy flowers. Just cold wind and the sound of dirt hitting the coffin. Standing there beside the grave, Sarah said softly, "He stole everything that mattered to us. But at least Tommy got the truth." And I realized she was exactly right. That truth cost us $10,000 and a family we could never rebuild the same way again. After the funeral, the house went quiet in a completely different way. Like sadness had drained the last bit of energy from everyone. Nobody mentioned Rick's name again. Grandma stopped setting an extra chair at the dinner table. Grandpa barely looked at the spot where Rick used to sit. Even the baby seemed to sense the change, sleeping longer hours, crying less. Sarah moved through each day like a ghost until one morning she knocked on my apartment door. Her hair was pulled back. Her eyes looked tired but stronger. "Grandpa gave me a check," she said. $10,000. He said it's for Tommy. For doubting him. She paused, swallowing hard. He said we all owe him way more than money. I found Tommy outside drawing with sidewalk chalk again. This time drawing bright yellow suns and spaceships. When I showed him the check, he tilted his head confused. Did we win something? Sort of, I said. We just got back what belonged to us. That night, the family sat together for the first real dinner in months. The same roasted chicken, the same old table, but somehow it felt lighter. Sarah poured juice. Grandpa served the food. Grandma even smiled a little. Nobody said Rick's name, but his absence finally felt like relief instead of pain. After dessert, Sarah looked across the table at Tommy. I blamed you, she said quietly. I didn't actually see anything. I just needed to believe it wasn't him. Tommy kept eating, calm like always. I knew, he said simply. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I'm really sorry. He nodded like forgiving people was easy when you're only 11. When the dishes were washed, I stood at the sink listening to their laughter drift through the house. It didn't sound perfect. Sounded real and honest. Spring came quietly. The trees outside Grandma and Grandpa's house bloomed like they'd been waiting for us to notice beauty again. Life didn't go back to what it was before. It became something steadier, smaller, and more honest. Sarah found a new job. Tommy laughed more often. Grandma learned to listen before she spoke accusations. Sometimes I still think about that night. The accusation, the silence, the proof. Justice didn't arrive loudly. It whispered one video frame at a time until nobody could deny what really happened. If you've ever been blamed for something you didn't do, tell me in the comments below. You're not alone in that pain.